Hey, so I am doing a very interesting video at this time. You see, I happen to be someone that typically isn't trained and isn't trained to be a first responder or an officer in that type of a way. However, my dad was a security officer. Raised all my life, aside from other jobs that he had held, my background also featured both parents dealing with discussions in the car, at home, even at school campus about who was who and family members that were involved with security protocols, watch command, and even law enforcement. So, from that background, it doesn't take a genius to understand that as an educator, you understand that you might be watched over differently. So, into the education field, although I am opening a newly developed school and I'm in fundraising processing, I've had to do my fair share of studying. And no, I did not consider explaining all of this aside from court appearances and as needed. So, I am offering a video of some insight because those that aren't trained, neither do they expect to be or want to be, into a law enforcement process or a first responders process, so to say. We typically consider the viewpoints of our own industry, our own career, our own family, and we consider different security protocols according to our own management style for our own needs and family. That is typical for any other community member, any other place that you visit, and any travels that are done. However, the problem is that not everyone can verify how they actually built their life with that type of a process. So, as one that's an educator that's had a teaching position in which I've also had to dive into cybersecurity as well as protocols for students and children and training the students in internet navigation as well as safety and programs that are meant for a school. There is a certain criteria that is covered, yet trained upon differently, as well as workshops and conventions. When you go through advanced training and advanced conventions for technology, and you see the advancements into the schools and education field, you also see the development in the security field. What's interesting is that not too many people touch upon it unless they are involved in some type of a way in which they actually specialize in it. All the rest is given to those that specialize in it for that process. However, I see a very huge need for those that do not have that process. If you would like to go through that process, there's always online training, online coursework, even online testing. I go through public school systems and public libraries for additional training as needed for my own self because of my education career, not because of a security career. And that sometimes does get mixed in, especially with security guards or law enforcement that do not know a person and they get the wrong viewpoint from another person, in which hearsay or considerations are viewed from a different angle. So when you are viewed for studying security, no, we don't have to be freaking relatable to be in an area to review and study security systems. However, we do have to add in the views of coursework on how it relates to what we are trying to accomplish. If we just want to learn and get to know a system, why not? If we just want to learn and grow in our capacity and our role, then there should be leniency, convenience, and availability of study work without interruption. Now, for me, it's a little different because I have to deal with the federal and the state and different guidelines. So, for those that are trying to figure out my viewpoint, yes, I am a security officer's daughter. He is actually my stepdad. So no, I do not buy into all of his viewpoints on security either. Not because of trust, but because of his location, of where he was, and different areas in which his family had to work with law enforcement and security protocols. So, although some of it may be biased based on a security level, he was at the top of the chain of command for that purpose. For my purpose, it was into the education field with training into the technology field, which adds in the security protocols for technology. As I guide students in my classroom, I do so with the knowledge that I had training only to a certain level, with a heart for those that have additional training, and I leave the rest to them. If I see fit that there's something else wrong, then I do bring it up, both to a principal, both to even part time teachers, or even in interviews. Some don't like me for it. Trust me, in grades K through 3, if we are not adding in technology and there is no curriculum or training, teachers are frustrated and they will add in their pissed off side and swear and yell at you no matter what the cost for them to have what they want in their classrooms. It's not just one experience that I saw that in. I've experienced it in multiple areas. And for goodness sakes, my last coding class, I wanted to yell and argue with teachers as to why they even get upset at anybody dealing with technology and security when they themselves are not fully certified to add in their input, in which students are not even capable of typing their name in less than 1 minute on a keyboard. If a student is struggling on a keyboard, then you can admit that that is where their struggle is in typing skills. Basic coding typing skills, going into cybersecurity, going into navigation and protocols, into internet networks and computer networks and diving into with apps working to that capacity for assessments to actually be passable. If it's not passable to that degree, then you can be sure that there are people struggling to admit in schools and classrooms that we have less security training and more internet additions. For that reason, there is an internet AUP process, but that doesn't change the curriculum. So, for my purpose right now, this video is to give you a little bit more of an insight. I dive into security training because I also have to hire my own security guard and dive into additional security protocols with robots. Added robotic systems adds more security processing. For that purpose, I teach it in very basic, simple form. If you're in nature, nature is security. If you have a building, the building is security. If you have a camera, camera is added security. If you have security cameras become a part of your security. If you have any technology, that becomes a part of your security. There are different levels of adding in security and layers of protocol and layers of added information. I think everyone forgot that nature is nature. When nature calls, nature calls. That's still security. If you have a building that you actually do live in, not everyone has a building with technology. That building can secure you or not secure you. Hence, we have warfare. So, we have warfare in addition to that process of guiding people into a building to be or feel secure. If it's collapsible, what happens with a bomb? There goes a bomb. They got led into a building that is less secure than nature. So you can see the very basic view of security is also mixed into people's views of what security looks like or sounds like. What is security? What can be done for security? Where does law enforcement fit in? And where is their security? A lot of those types of things are not trained upon. So please excuse those that do not understand the viewpoint of solving a problem and mixing that in with being a first responder to a problem. First responders in a family member or for a family member is typically a family member. That doesn't mean be one crazy fake first responder, cop, or security guard. That means that someone expects you to respond to a family member versus a security guard or law enforcement officer or a fire department officer or anybody in the chain of command in the military. They have their first responders hat for other purposes, for their emergencies, what is needed when they get a call. Unless you end up with one of those security friends that say, I'll be your security guard outside of my job and you don't have to pay for me. If you have one of those friends, good luck, enjoy it. Not all the time do we need a security officer, friend, or family member outside of their job. Okay? So please be respectful of those that do respond accordingly and those that do not respond accordingly. Get your own training if you want. I'm still in training for my own. I can actually admit that, but please excuse those that do not get trained and, for whatever the reason, are mixed up with the viewpoints of where and how and to who they can talk to. Although I do not have all the answers, I do know that research works with me for the presentations that I have to build and going into board members and presentations along with the department heads and vendors and contracts. Not everyone has that capacity and not everyone wants it. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your time. Enjoy your studies into securing your own networks. All my love.